It was a Tuesday when the stranger knocked. 3 sharp, deliberate raps on the door. Lily Davis nearly dropped the glass she was drying. The knock didn't sound like a neighbor's friendly tap or a delivery driver's quick shuffle. It sounded purposeful, almost ceremonial. She checked the clock on the stove. 11 p.m. Her skin prickled. Who knocked at that hour in sleepy Brookpine? The dog, Max, growled low from his bed in the corner. Lily hesitated. Her instincts screamed not to open it, but some stubborn part of her, the part that hated being afraid, forced her hand. She walked to the door, peeked through the peephole. Figure stood there, still as a statue. A man in a long black coat that brushed the tops of his boots. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, shadowing most of his face except for his mouth. His thin, bloodless lips were curled in a strange, knowing smile. He held nothing in his hands. No clipboard, no package, just his empty palms at his sides, waiting. She should have walked away, locked the deadbolt, called the police, something, anything. But instead, Lily felt her fingers reaching for the doorknob, almost without her consent. She cracked the door open an inch. "Can I help you?" she called, her voice tighter than she intended. The stranger didn't answer right away. He tilted his head slightly, like a bird studying a worm. Then, in a dry, cracked voice, he said, "March 3rd. That was all. 2 words, spoken so quietly, she almost thought she imagined it. Before she could say anything, before she could demand an explanation, the man turned, walked away. His footsteps made no sound. He disappeared down the driveway and melted into the darkness beyond the streetlights. Lily slammed the door shut, locked every bolt, set the chain. Max whimpered low in his throat, curling into a tighter ball. Her heart pounded against her ribs. March 3rd. Today was February 3rd, exactly 1 month away. "What the hell?" she whispered to the empty kitchen, but no answer came. Only the sound of the wind rising outside, rattling the window panes. She barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made her sit bolt upright. Every shadow in the hallway looked like a man in a black coat. By morning, she almost convinced herself it had been a prank. Some psycho kid from the high school daring each other to scare the neighbors. That's all. Nothing more. She showered, got dressed, drove to work at the diner on Main Street, tried to pretend it hadn't happened. But when she returned home that evening, she found something tucked under her doormat, a scrap of old, yellowed paper, on it, written in sharp, slanted handwriting, 30 days. Lily's stomach twisted into a knot. Someone was messing with her. Someone who had stood on her porch, inches away from her door, whispering a date that loomed closer by the hour. She thought about calling the police, reporting harassment. But what would she say? A man knocked on her door and said a date, left a scrap of paper. There were no threats, no break-ins, nothing illegal, just an overwhelming sense of dread, a chill that wouldn't leave her bones. At work the next day, she tried to laugh it off with her co-worker, Angie. "You sure you didn't dream it?" Angie teased, tying her apron behind her back. "Pretty vivid dream," Lily muttered. "You've been stressed lately," Angie continued. "I mean, since the accident." Lily stiffened. Everyone in town knew. Last November, she had fallen asleep at the wheel after a double shift and slammed into a guardrail on Route 9. Her car had flipped twice. She walked away with only a few bruises. A miracle, the doctors said. But since then, things hadn't felt right. Sometimes, when she stood too close to mirrors, she swore she saw her reflection moving just a beat too late. Sometimes she woke up gasping, sure she heard someone whispering her name. In the dark, she chalked it up to trauma, stress, survivor's guilt. But now Now she wasn't so sure. That night, she lay awake in bed, the house silent except for Max's slow, heavy breathing. The clock on the nightstand glowed 2:38 a.m. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell chimed. Lily closed her eyes, tried to drift. Knock. 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 She shot upright, heart in her throat. The knocks didn't come from the front door this time. They came from inside the house, from the hallway, from the other side of her bedroom door. Max growled again, low and warning. Lily clutched the covers. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocks came again, 3 measured taps, not frantic, not impatient, just waiting. She wanted to scream, wanted to grab the lamp and hurl it at whoever, whatever, stood outside. But her body wouldn't obey. Fear held her frozen in place. The doorknob rattled, just a little, like someone was testing it. It was locked. Thank God. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Finally, when the first grey light of dawn began to seep through the window, she summoned the courage to move. She crept to the door, pressed her ear against it. Silence. Very slowly, she turned the lock and opened. The door a crack. The hallway was empty, cold, still, except for one thing. At her feet, placed neatly on the wooden floor, was another scrap of paper. This one read, 29 days. By morning, Lily felt almost sick. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the second piece of paper lying next to her coffee mug. 29 days. The number haunted her, ticking like a time bomb inside her chest. She barely touched her breakfast. Max hovered at her feet, sensing her unease. His eyes flickered constantly toward the front door, waiting, listening. Just like she was, she grabbed her phone, started dialing the police station. Halfway through, she stopped. What could she possibly say? That a man knocked on her door and whispered a date, that notes were appearing inside her locked house? Without any evidence, they'd smile politely, tell her to check her security system, and move on. Brookpine wasn't exactly a hotspot for supernatural crime. Still, she needed answers. She needed someone to believe her. Lily thought of Angie. Maybe it was a prank after all. Maybe someone from the diner, some bored teenager with too much time on their hands, or maybe… No. No, she couldn't think like that, couldn't. Let paranoia rot her brain. She had to move, had to act. By noon, she made a plan. Step 1. Security cameras. She drove straight to the hardware store and bought 2, one for the porch, one for the living room. The clerk gave her a curious look. When she insisted on same-day installation, she didn't care. By sundown, her house was rigged, eyes in the dark. Step 2. Tell someone. Lily invited Angie over for dinner, pizza, movies, casual conversation, anything to keep herself grounded. Angie showed up around 7, carrying a bottle of cheap wine and a bag of cookies. From the diner, she was already laughing as she stepped inside. "I needed a girls' night," she said, kicking off her boots. "Work's been hell." Lily forced a smile. She waited until they were 2 slices deep into the pizza before she said it. "I need to tell you something," Lily said. Something in her voice must have tipped Angie off, because her smile faded. She put down her slice, leaned in. Lily told her everything. The knocks, the whisper, the notes, the dreams, the feeling that something was creeping closer every night. When she finished, the room felt colder somehow. Angie stared at her wide-eyed. "You're not joking," she said finally. Lily shook her head. Tears burned the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. For a long moment, Angie didn't say anything. She picked at the label on the wine bottle. Then, almost too quietly to hear, "My cousin, Jenny, she She had something like that happen. Lily's heart stuttered. What do you mean? Angie hesitated, clearly battling with herself. Then she spoke. A year ago, up in Emerson, Jenny said she kept getting these weird visits. Someone knocking 3 times at her door, leaving notes, counting down the days. Lily's skin crawled. What happened to her? Angie's face darkened. She died, she said. Car crash. On the exact day the notes predicted. For a moment, the world tilted. The room seemed to stretch and shrink all at once. Max let out a low, uneasy whimper. Lily gripped the edge of the table. You think it's real? Lily breathed. Angie shook her head helplessly. I don't know what to think. My family called it a coincidence, a freak accident, but Jenny, she swore up and down that something was after her. That it wasn't just a prank. The air between them thickened, heavier than smoke, more suffocating than fear. Lily swallowed hard. I'm not letting this thing kill me, she said. Her voice didn't shake. Not this time. Angie nodded. I'll help you, she said. No hesitation, not even a flicker. Loyalty burned in her eyes like a lifeline. For the first time in days, Lily felt a small flicker of hope. Together, they stayed up past midnight, setting up extra precautions. Cameras. On every door and window, salt lines across the thresholds. Angie's idea. You never know, right? A kitchen drawer stuffed with every blunt object that could be used as a weapon. They even wrote down everything that had happened so far, just in case. When Angie finally left around 2 a.m., Lily stood alone in the hallway, staring at the front door, waiting, listening. The house creaked and groaned in the wind. Nothing unusual, nothing unnatural. Maybe, just maybe, the cameras would scare off whoever, or whatever, was behind this. She slept with the bedroom door locked and Max curled against her legs. The next morning, she checked the security footage first thing. Her hands trembled as she clicked through the video clips. Nothing. The porch was empty. No figures, no shadows, no knocks. Lily exhaled slowly. Maybe they'd stopped. Maybe she had scared them off. The hope lasted exactly 3 minutes until she opened her front door to grab the morning paper and found another scrap of paper lying at her feet. This one was different. This one didn't have a number, just a sentence, scrawled in that same sharp handwriting. You can't lock out death. The words burned into her brain, into her skin, into the pit of her stomach. She stumbled back inside, locked the door, bolted it, double-checked the cameras. Max barked at the windows, hackles raised. She couldn't stay here, not anymore. The walls felt too close, the air too thin. Her heart thundered against her ribs like a frantic prisoner pounding on cell doors. She grabbed her keys, called Angie. I'm coming over, she said. Her voice didn't even sound like her own, more like a distant echo. Come quick, Angie said, then added almost in a whisper, and Lily, bring the notes. The drive to Angie's house felt longer than usual. Every time, Lily glanced in the rearview mirror. She swore she caught a glimpse of someone sitting in the back seat. Someone just out of focus. Someone waiting. By the time she pulled into Angie's gravel driveway, her hands were slick with sweat. Max barked anxiously from the passenger seat. He hated leaving the house, but tonight she wasn't taking any chances. Angie was already waiting at the door, arms crossed over her chest, worry etched deep into her face. The porch light above her flickered, once, twice, then burned steady again. Come in, quick, Angie said, glancing nervously up and down the street before ushering Lily inside. The house smelled like vanilla candles and peppermint tea. Cozy, safe, or at least it should have. Tonight, even the warm smells couldn't hide the underlying chill that clung to Lily's skin. They sat at the kitchen table. Max curled protectively at Lily's feet, growling every so often under his breath. Angie spread out a large spiral notebook between them. Across 2 full pages, she had scribbled names, dates, locations. Lily leaned closer, her heart skipping a beat. "What's this?" Angie tapped the notebook. "I didn't sleep much last night," she said. "I started searching, looking for anything, anyone who reported 3 knocks, countdown notes, warnings about death." She paused, chewing her lip. "And, Lily, I found them." Lily stared at the list. At least 10 names, most from small towns, places just like Brookpine. Every one of them linked to some unexplained death. Car crashes, house fires, sudden heart attacks. Everyone within a month of receiving the knocks. A heavy silence thickened between them. "Look," Angie said, flipping the notebook to the next page. She had printed out news articles, taped them down with frantic scrawls in the margins. "Here," she said, jabbing her finger at a clipping. "Emerson tragedy. Local woman dies in single vehicle crash after reporting strange disturbances." "That's Jenny," Angie said, voice tight. Another article. Millersville mystery. Family found deceased after multiple reports of phantom knocks on their door. And another. Silver Lake scare. Elderly man claims death warned him. Dies 3. Weeks later, each story more chilling than the last. Each death eerily close to the date whispered in the night. "Why haven't we heard about this before?" Lily whispered. Angie shook her head. "Small towns. People don't want ghost stories in the papers. They call it grief hallucinations or urban legends. Most of these places probably buried it." Lily's stomach twisted into knots. "But it's real," she said. "It's happening." Angie nodded grimly. "And it's happening to you." Lily sat back, her mind spinning. "So what do we do?" Angie hesitated. "There's something else," she said carefully. "Something weird." She flipped the notebook again to a blank page. In the center, she had drawn a map, a crude outline of their part of the state. Brookpine, Emerson, Millersville, Silver Lake, all marked with tiny red dots. And when Lily looked at it, really looked, she saw it. The dots formed a pattern, a rough, jagged circle, and Brookpine, her town, was right in the center. "It's closing in," Angie whispered. "Whatever it is, it's getting closer." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. Tick, 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 counting down. Max barked suddenly, breaking the tension. He jumped up, barking furiously at the front door. Someone was knocking. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. Lily and Angie froze. Max barked harder, scratching at the floor. Lily's heart crashed against her ribs like a wrecking ball. Angie grabbed a kitchen knife, her hand trembling. The knocking came again. 3 perfect beats. Slowly, they edged toward the door. Lily reached for the peephole, heart pounding so loudly she couldn't hear herself think. She peered out. Nothing. The porch was empty. The driveway empty. The street empty. Only the cold wind moving the bushes. Only the moonlight staining the world in pale silver. She stepped back, shaking. "This isn't normal," she said, voice cracking. "This isn't human." Max growled low and deep. The fur on his back stood on end. Angie locked the door again, bolting it tight. "We need to do something," she said, voice tight with fear. "We can't just wait to die." Lily nodded. The countdown was real, and time was slipping through her fingers faster than she could catch it. "Tomorrow," she said, her voice hardening, "we find someone who knows more. Someone who can fight this." Angie didn't argue. They sat up the rest of the night, armed with flashlights, knives, and the bone-deep terror that something unseen was waiting just outside. Every creak of the house made them flinch. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. At 3:33 a.m., the door rattled violently, just once, like something testing the lock. Then silence. Max whimpered and hid under the table. Lily gripped her flashlight until her knuckles turned white. This wasn't a prank, wasn't a person, it was death. And death had knocked 3 times. The countdown had begun, and now there was no way to stop it. Not without finding whatever, started it. Somewhere out there was an answer. They just had to survive long enough to find it. Morning dragged itself across the sky, heavy and sluggish. The sun rose behind a shroud of mist, casting brook pine in a sickly grey light. It didn't feel like morning. It didn't feel like anything but the quiet before a storm. Lily didn't bother going home. She stayed at Angie's house, curled on the couch with Max snoring softly at her feet. Neither of them had really slept. Every time Lily closed her eyes, she dreamed of the knocks, the door, the whisper, the date. 27 days left now. The number burned into her mind like a brand. Angie sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her laptop with a wild, frantic energy. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun. Her coffee sat untouched, going cold. When Lily finally dragged herself upright, Angie barely looked up. "I found someone," she said hoarsely. Lily's heart skipped. "Who?" Angie turned the laptop toward her. An old news clipping blinked on the screen. The headline read, "Local priest claims death mark haunts Brookpine residents." The article was short, just a few paragraphs, mostly painting the man as a crackpot. Colourful character who spun ghost stories for attention. But there was a name, Father Morgan Hales, retired, living just outside town, near the old Holloway Cemetery. "He used to work at the St. Sebastian Parish downtown," Angie said. "Got kicked out after some weird incidents." She clicked another link, a police report, disturbance, unexplained injuries, multiple witnesses claimed violent unseen forces. Lily leaned closer. "Has he survived?" Angie nodded, her face pale. "Yeah. He's still alive. According to the article, he claimed he escaped the countdown, said he knew how to trick it." Hope sparked inside Lily. A dangerous hope, a desperate one. "Let's go," she said, already grabbing her jacket. Angie hesitated. "Shouldn't we plan first? Bring something? Tell someone?" Lily shook her head. "There's no time." Every hour felt stolen, every second another grain of sand slipping through the glass. Max jumped into the back seat willingly this time, sensing their urgency. The drive to Holloway Cemetery took about 15 minutes. The mist thickened as they neared the outskirts. Lily hated this part of town. It always felt abandoned, forgotten by the world. The trees leaned too close over the road. The houses stood back from the street, small and broken and rotting. They found Father Hale's house easily enough. It was the one with the hand-painted sign on the gate. "No trespassing. You've been warned." Charming. Still, Lily didn't hesitate. She parked, heart hammering, and marched up the cracked walkway. Angie and Max trailed behind her, silent. The house looked like it might collapse under its own weight, pale blue paint, peeling like dead skin. Curtains, drawn tight against the windows. Lily raised her fist and knocked, 3 times. The symbolism wasn't lost on her. At first, nothing. No movement. No sound. Then, the door creaked open, just a crack. A face appeared in the gap. An old man, late 60s, maybe older, skin leathery and worn, like parchment, eyes sharp and colourless, like smoke. "Go away," he rasped, voice-like. "Sandpaper." Lily pressed forward. "Please," she said, "we need your help." She didn't care if she sounded crazy. Desperation stripped away all pride. Hales stared at her for a long, heavy moment. Then his gaze dropped to the scrap of paper Lily held. "Up the latest note, the one that said, "You can't lock out death." His face changed. Something like recognition flickered there, maybe fear, maybe sorrow. He opened the door wider. "Come in," he said, "and don't touch anything." The inside of the house was cluttered and dim, smelled like dust and burnt herbs. Old books were piled on every surface. Charms and talismans dangled from the ceiling, bones, feathers, rusted nails tied together with string. Max growled low, but followed Lily inside. Father Hales motioned them to sit at a battered kitchen table. He stayed, standing, arms crossed, staring down at them like a judge. "You've heard the knocks," he said. "Not a question, a statement." Lily nodded. 3 times. "A man whispered a date to me." Hales grunted. "Then you're marked." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "Marked by what?" Angie asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "Not what," Hales said softly. "Who?" He pulled a worn, yellowed book off a nearby shelf and dropped it onto the table. The cover was cracked leather, the title faded. He flipped it open, showed them an old woodcut illustration, a figure cloaked in shadow, long, clawed fingers knocking on a door. The caption beneath read, "The Herald of Passing." "It's not death itself," Hales said. "It's his messenger, a collector." Lily's mouth went dry. "Why me?" she whispered. Hales shrugged. "No one knows how it chooses. Sometimes it's people who cheated death before, sometimes just bad luck." He leaned closer. His breath smelled of tobacco and something darker, something rotting. "But once it marks you," he said, voice low and fierce, "you're in its grip. You have 3 knocks, a date, a countdown. And when the clock runs out," Angie said, finishing for him, "you die." Hales nodded grimly. "But you survived," Lily said, desperate. "You escaped." A bitter smile twisted his mouth. "Survived," he echoed. "I'm alive. But I didn't escape." He rolled up the sleeve of his shirt, showed them his arm. Deep, black scars, wrapped around his wrist and forearm, forming the shape of a chain, burned into the flesh, old and angry. "I broke free of the countdown," he said. "But I'm still chained, still watched." He sat back, coughing harshly, spat into a handkerchief. Blood dotted the fabric. Lily swallowed hard. "But how?" she said. "How did you break free?" Hales wiped his mouth and stared at her. His eyes were dead grey, like ashes. "You have to trick it," he said. "Outsmart it. Give it someone else." The room tilted. "What do you mean?" Angie whispered. Hales leaned forward. "The herald comes to collect a soul," he said. "If it can't take yours, it'll take another." Lily's blood ran cold. "You have to sacrifice someone," she said, voice shaking. Hales nodded. "Someone you know. Someone you care about." The table swam before her eyes. "You trick it," Hales said again. "But you live with the price." He looked down at his scarred arm, then away. "Better dead than damned," he muttered. The room fell into a heavy silence. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Sacrifice someone. Someone she loved. "Max, Angie." She shook her head. "No," she said. "I won't do that." Hales gave her a sad, pitying look. "You will," he said softly, "when the days get short, when the nights get cold, when you hear the 3rd knock. You'll choose," he said, "or you'll die." Lily stood up, shaking. Max growled again, low and fierce. "We're leaving," she said. Hales didn't try to stop them. He just sat there at his ruined table, watching them walk away, like a man watching a funeral procession. As they stepped outside, the mist closed around them again, chilling, suffocating. Above them, crows circled the cemetery, cawing sharply. As Lily slammed the car door shut, she realized something terrifying. In the rearview mirror, just for a second, she saw a shadow standing at the edge of the woods, watching, waiting. The countdown continued, and now, Lily knew saving herself might mean damning someone else. The drive back from Father Hales's house was silent, heavy. Lily clutched the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles went white. Angie stared out the window, arms folded across her chest, face unreadable. Max whimpered once or twice, pacing in the back seat. The mist followed them like a living thing. Lily's mind spun in tight, vicious circles. Give the herald someone else. Save yourself. Damn another. She couldn't, she wouldn't, no matter what. But a tiny, poisonous voice whispered in the back of her head, you'll change your mind when the clock runs out, when you're staring death in the face. The thought made her stomach churn. By the time they reached Angie's house, the mist had thickened into a soupy grey wall. Streetlights flickered. The world outside their windows looked twisted, broken, like a reflection in a cracked mirror. Stay with me, Angie said, voice tight. Don't want you alone. Lily nodded. No argument, not tonight. They got inside as fast as they could, double-locked the door, pulled the heavy curtain shut, turned on every light. The house felt fragile, thin, like if you pressed too hard against the walls, they would crumble. They sat together in the living room, Max curled up between them, eyes darting nervously toward the front door. Neither woman spoke much. What was there to say? Father Hale's warning hung between them like smoke. Lily sat staring at her hands for a long time, seeing the faint outlines of her veins, thin blue rivers under fragile skin. How easy it would be to die. How close it already was. And yet, deep down, another thought gnawed at her. What if Angie is marked too? What if the herald already has her name? Wouldn't saving yourself mean saving her too? She hated herself for even thinking it. The night dragged on. Time lost meaning. At some point, Lily must have drifted off. She woke to the sound of glass shattering. Max barked furiously. Angie screamed. Lily shot up, heart hammering so hard she thought she might pass out. The living room window was smashed. Cold air howled through the gap. The mist outside poured in, thick and choking. For a moment, she thought she saw a shape standing in it. Tall, thin, wrong. She blinked and it was gone. Upstairs. Angie shouted, grabbing Lily's arm. They ran, Max racing ahead, barking frantically. They barricaded themselves in Angie's bedroom, shoving the dresser in front of the door. The mist seeped under the crack of the door like reaching fingers. Lily sat with her back against the wall, chest heaving. She checked her phone, 2:14 a.m. Why is this happening? Angie whispered, voice breaking. Lily wanted to tell her everything about Father Hales, about the sacrifice, but the words stuck in her throat. She was terrified if she spoke them aloud, it would make it real, concrete, inevitable. Instead, she said, "We'll find a way out." It was a lie, a pretty one, but Angie clung to it like a lifeline. The mist thickened. Max whined and pawed at the bed. From somewhere downstairs they heard it. 3 knocks, slow, heavy, final. Lily squeezed her eyes shut. She covered her ears, but the sound vibrated through her bones. She didn't want to look at the door, didn't want to see what was on the other side. But part of her, some deep, broken part, almost wanted to. Almost. She gritted her teeth and waited. The knocks didn't come again, just silence, a silence worse than any sound. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, or maybe none at all. Finally, the mist began to recede. The cold lessened. The air grew still. Morning light, weak and bloodless, trickled through the broken window downstairs. They emerged cautiously. The house was a wreck. Glass crunched under their feet. The curtains were shredded. Pictures torn from the walls, but no sign of an intruder. Nothing human, anyway. Lily checked her phone again. New notification. Reminder. 26 days left. The app she didn't remember installing. The one she couldn't delete. She almost hurled the phone across the room. Angie brewed a pot of coffee with shaking hands. They sat at the kitchen table, still in their clothes from yesterday, still filthy, still exhausted. Max lay at their feet, eyes open and alert, head resting on his paws. "I don't think we're safe here," Angie said finally. Lily nodded. No argument. "We need to go somewhere," Angie continued, voice low. "Somewhere it can't find us." Lily hated to crush that fragile hope, but she had to. "It'll find us," she said. "It's not a thing you can run from." Angie's face crumpled. Tears spilled over. Lily reached out and squeezed her hand tightly. "I'm not leaving you," she said, and she meant it, even if it meant dying together. The doorbell rang. They both jumped, frozen, listening. The doorbell rang again. Slowly, Lily rose to her feet. Angie followed, clutching the knife from the kitchen. Drawer. They approached the front door. Lily looked through the peephole. A man stood on the porch. Early 20s, thin, hollow-eyed. Not the same figure from the night before. Someone real, someone human. Maybe. Lily opened the door a crack. "Can I help you?" she asked warily. The man blinked at her. He looked lost. "You're on the list," he said softly. His voice was hoarse, trembling. "What list?" Lily demanded. He didn't answer, just reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. He pressed it into Lily's hand and staggered backward down the steps without another word. Lily shut the door quickly, bolted it, turned the paper over. It was a list of names, 20 or so. And halfway down the page, she saw it. Lily Anderson. May 16th, her date, and just beneath it, written in shaky letters, "Sacrifice another, or become one yourself." The paper slipped from her fingers, fluttered to the floor like a dead leaf. The cracks in her resolve spread wider, deeper. The glass of her mind was shattering. Soon, she would have to make a choice. The list lay on the floor like a living thing. Lily couldn't tear her eyes from it. The names blurred together, ink smudged, letters uneven, but hers stood out sharp and terrible. Lily Anderson, May 16th, 26 days left. "Who was that guy?" Angie asked, her voice brittle. She crouched, picked up the paper, and stared at it like it might bite her. Lily shook her head. "I don't know, but he's like me, marked." She looked around, feeling the walls of the house closing in. "We have to find him. Find the others too." "Why?" "Because maybe someone knows something." She didn't say the other part aloud, or maybe someone's already chosen to sacrifice someone else. Maybe we're not all innocent. They packed quickly, just essentials, phones, cash, jackets, a flashlight, and Max's leash. The mist still hung, heavy outside. The town looked gutted, hollowed out, like something had drained the life from it overnight. As Lily drove, Angie scanned the list. Some names they recognized, some they didn't. A few addresses were scribbled beside certain names. A hint, maybe, a place to start. They found the boy first. His name was Trevor Miles. According to the address, he lived in a run-down apartment complex on the east side of town, the part with boarded-up shops and half-finished construction sites. They parked across the street. Lily hesitated before getting out. Something about the place felt wrong. Not just run down. Not just forgotten, tainted. Max whined low in his throat. Still, they crossed the cracked pavement, stepping over broken glass and cigarette butts, and climbed the rusted stairs to apartment 3B. Lily knocked. 3 times instinctively, and immediately regretted it. The echo of her knocks felt heavy, final. The door swung open almost at once. Trevor stood there, tall, too thin, skin stretched tight over sharp bones, eyes wide and frantic. "You," he said. Not a question. Recognition flashed across his face. "You got the list." Lily nodded slowly. Angie hovered just behind her, silent. Trevor stepped aside, motioning them in. The apartment stank of mold and something worse, rot. The place was trashed. Furniture overturned, drawings scrawled across every inch of the walls. Frantic looping symbols, black marker bleeding into the peeling wallpaper. Max refused to come in. He sat outside the door, growling low.